a frog, a moose, an ape, a turtle, a dragon flying in the sky. The ape was walking its dog. The frog was getting closer. The ethical retarders had only moments to prepare. Now, the ethical retarders were not the only people engaged in competition. No, in fact, there were 16 teams headed by 16 captains who were vying for the championship. Here they are in all their glory. Unfortunately, 4 of these captains had dropped already. Appleton, Palafin, Joltik, and Wynald were no more. The retarders were honoured to have had the chance to face Joltik in combat before Joltik's departure. But the ethical retarders would not be granted reprieve from their future battles. No, for every foe that left, a new entered. These were Skremlin, Regigigas, Megasizor, and Bramblegast. Let's have a look, shall we, at how they did in the prior week. The first battle was between Bulbasaur and Yveltal, with Yveltal coming out on top by a narrow margin of 1. The next battle was between Bramblegast and Roserade. One moment, I'm going to shut the door. There's a stray cat who has decided that he lives with me now. Oh, do you want to come in again? But I only just let you out 3 moments ago. So he's been bothering our cats, but he's very charming and charismatic. So I have to be careful not to fall too much in love with him, because then I want to keep him. Oh, life is conflicting. Anyway, where were we? Bramblegast has taken 3rd equal in the overall standings, and the Roserades are at -4. The next matchup, we see Quaxley and Okidogi go head-to-head, with Okidogi coming ahead also by 4 points. Then, Regigigas and Tinkaton. Tinkaton comes out, but it's narrow. Anyone's game. Next up, Lucario and Bouffalont. Lucario takes the lead by a strong 5, putting them in 1st equal in the standings. And then it's me. How did I do? We did triumph over the Joltics, who were then replaced by the Megasizors, by a comfortable lead of 2-0. I could have got 3. I really could have got 3. But I'm happy with the win. Next up, Pyroar and Heatmore. And this was the other really major difference. 5-0 on behalf of the Pyroars. And finally, Skremlin and Ursaluna go head-to-head, with, just like my battle, a 2-0 victory going to Skremlin. So those are the standings overall. We are top of the pack. If this was the final score, we would qualify for playoffs, but it's really early. It's still anyone's game. 1 weekend is not enough to learn much. There is an interesting thing that you'll notice looking at this slide. So those picks on the top row that are now just red and green, those were in draft order. So the far left was the first pick, and the far right was the last pick. And you'll notice a pattern, right? The people on the edges are winning, and the people in the middle are not. And that is expected. I mean, we know that being on the edge is better in draft, but it's amazing how better, right? Like, it makes a massive difference. In fact, there was only one matchup where the winner was further towards the middle than the loser. And that was the Lucario matchup, I believe. We'll jump back and have a look. Yeah, this one here. So this matchup, Lucario versus Bouffalont, is the only one where the winner was closer to the center of the draft than the loser. I just thought that was an interesting thing to note. Every other time, winners on the outside. Ursaluna and Grafai are tied. They're the same distance apart. It goes to show that luck is a skill, I suppose, and getting a good draft pick is the kind of thing that will get you far in the draft. We did okay, right? We're not dead center, we're not on the edge. We did okay. With all that out of the way, let's have a look at our opponent this week. So it's the Bouffalont Bills. We'll go through one by one in draft order, look at what they do offensively and what they do defensively. So first, Greninja. So I've made some changes to the format. Notably here, I have circled their stab types, so in Greninja's case, water and dark, and color-coded the circles based on whether they're physical or special. So blue is for special, red's for physical, and gold, if it comes up, is for mixed attackers, or types where my opponent has a physical and a special attacker. Okay, so here's Greninja's resistance profile. We know about Greninja. He's a frog. We like frogs. Interesting thing about water and dark types is that there's no overlap between the weaknesses of water and the weaknesses of dark, or the resistances. So as a water dark type, you just get all the weaknesses and resistances of water and all the weaknesses and resistances of dark, which means Greninja has a lot of entries on the chart overall. A lot of resistances and a lot of weaknesses. Okay, so here's Ting-Lu. Ting-Lu comes next, and we have two dark types. My opponent has just gone straight for two dark types, so they have a lot of overlapping weaknesses and resistances. They have these weaknesses to grass and fighting, and bug, and fairy, and resistances to psychic and dark. But it's early in the draft. We'll see where they go from here. Well, they take Gholdengo, and look at how good Ghost and Steel is. It's just ridiculous. Gholdengo has like the entire chart to itself. I mean, some of its entries are weaknesses, but the only two types that it's not interacting with in some way are electric and water. It's just insane how many resistances this thing gets, and immunity to status. Yeah, it's really scary. And it's immune to both of Sneasler's stabs, and it resists acrobatics. So Sneasler is crying itself to sleep in a corner this battle. Gholdengo is just brutal. It resists grass and fairy because it resists every type. So, I mean, what do I do? What do I do against it? Well, I hit it with a super effective Ivy Cudgel. Fingers crossed. My camera is freaking out. One moment. The camera is freaking out. The wind is howling in the background. But what can we do, right? Infernape is next. Firefighting, and it can be a mixed attacker. So I've put both fire and fighting as gold. It's kind of nice for their team. They have these triple resistances to ice, dark, and steel. It doesn't give them any triple weaknesses in return. Their team's looking pretty scary. I mean, Gholdengo and Ting-Lu is a good, like, hazard core, and then Greninja and Infernape give you these really versatile breakers that have got really colourful move pools, and they can do a bunch of things. They can pivot. As a core of 4, I wouldn't be unhappy to draft these. Next up is Terra Mesprit. I didn't really know what to think of Mesprit making this PowerPoint. I'm still in the early processes of planning for the later stages of the battle. But looking at Mesprit's move pool, it's crazy. It has every utility move under the sun, and Bolt Beam coverage plus a bunch of other random stuff. It's really good. The problem with Mesprit is that its stats are mediocre. Uxie's the defensive one, Azal's the offensive one. Mesprit is stuck in this middle ground where it's kind of like a Mew. It's like a levitating Mew, but its stats are slightly worse than Mew's. They're like even like Mew's, but a bit worse, and it's slower than Mew, 85 speed. Yeah, it feels like a worse Mew, and I mean, there's 1,000 Psychic-type legendaries, mono-psychics that just sit around. Still, with Terrestrialize, especially Terra Poison or Electric with the Levitate, it's scary, and it's very, very hard to predict. Next up is Blastoise. Blastoise got a bit of a glow-up in Gen 9 because it has Shell Smash, which can cause some mayhem. I'm not thrilled about it from my opponent's perspective, though, because they've already got Greninja. I don't know that they need another water type. But it's fun. It's a turtle. I like Blastoise. I don't hate it for their team defensively, either. And from my point of view, the more water types they have that I can hit with grass moves, the better. So I won't complain about it. Here's Probopass. It's like Gholdengo's demented brother. It also resists a bunch of things, but it's got those crippling quadruple weaknesses to fighting and ground. I don't know. I mean, you're quite happy to terror it just to steal, to get rid of all the horribleness of being a rock type. With this team, I mean, there's no point bringing a psychic type move. They've got 3 resistances, 2 immunities, a hit Infernape, but I mean, it's terrible. Same with ice, like they're so stacked on the ice resistances. I'm liking the look of ground. Ground looks like the strongest thing against them. They do have the immunity with Mesprit, but I think hitting Gholdengo is going to be the name of this game. Gholdengo is just such a problem for my team. Those ground moves, hitting other things as well, is just icing on the cake. Similarly, I could use Dark or Ghost to hit Gholdengo, but those are resisted by the Dark types, so they're not as strong. Dash Bun is a kind of obligate fairy. It's not that strong, but it's interesting. Well-baked body is interesting. I respect it a lot. It's got a really good pun for a name. We'll see if it can do anything, though. It's kind of weak. Its stats are not very good. It's a dragon immunity, and I don't have a dragon type. So in all likelihood, it's not coming to my opponent's game. Salamence comes along. Okay, pretty scary Pokemon for the second to last pick. He hasn't added any weaknesses that the opponent hasn't already covered well. He has added weaknesses to Rock and Dragon, which my opponent had no weaknesses at all to until now. They've kind of accumulated every weakness. Resistances, well, it gives them another Fire resist, which makes Fire hard to bring, but I still want to bring it for Gholdengo. Yeah, I mean, their team's looking very balanced overall. There's no glaring weaknesses. There's some defensive bright spots. Poison looks really bad against them. Psychic looks really bad against them. We'll see how it plays out, I suppose. And finally, Muck, the poison type. Now, it's just a Muck. It's a 4-point Pokemon. It shouldn't be that scary. But my team just hates poison types. I mean, I was thinking Saving Grace, right? Saving Grace, they don't have a poison type. Well, now they've got Muck. It Stonewalls Sneasler. Sneasler Stonewalls it in return. They just kind of trade blows. They can try to poison touch each other until the heat death of the universe, and neither will succeed. Stalemate, I suppose. But I could see Muck coming along just because my team's matchup against poison is so terrible. For now, and for the next bit, we will take a quick look, a quick reminder at my team's defensive profile. It's not as well-rounded as this, but we'll go quick. So, the Ethical Retarders. Sneasler comes in. Rillaboom comes in. Essaluna comes in. Hatterene comes in. Okay, well-rounded, well-rounded. Uh-oh, another grass type. He's added a second grass type. Uh-oh, he's added a Mandibuzz. He's got 4 grass resists. But he's got 3 flying weaknesses and nothing to cover it. 3 ice weaknesses and nothing to cover it. What's he going to add? Lantern. Resistance is all technically covered. Now, is it balanced? No. Is it a cobbled together hodgepodge of workable ideas? I think so. Let's add another fairy type because we don't have enough of those. Let's add a third grass type. And then let's add a useless thing that no one will ever use. Cool. That's my team. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now, the final thing we'll look at in moment 1 is the speed tiers. How does the team shape up? Last week, I had a really nice speed tier situation. I was quite happy. I had the fastest things on the block. I could speed creep them quite effectively. This week, it's not so nice for me. So as always, Hatterene's here in last place. Terribly slow. It's not moving from where it gets up each morning. It just lays there, thinking menacingly. Then my opponent has 3 slow defensive Pokemon, Muck, Tinglu, and Probopass. These are all the kind of Pokemon that aren't going to invest in speed anyway. I mean, maybe run Choice Band Muck, but I don't think it's very good. More likely, these sit around, take a hit, and then deal a bunch of damage back. And that's okay. Coming in next, we have my Essaluna and my 2 Terra Captains in this kind of middling, slow but middling speed zone. The nice thing I will say about this is that Ursaluna beats Muck and Probopass, and it just barely outspeeds them. So I should be able to click Earth Power against Muck and Probopass with impunity. The problem is, Tinglu is about as good a switch in to Ursaluna as you can get. It doesn't resist, right? I guess you could get better. But with those crazy defensive stats and that ability, it can take my stab moves, and then it can disrupt me, it can poison me, it can phase me out if I try to Calm Mind. It can't switch in forever, but it can switch in a pinch. Moving on to the higher middling speed tiers, we have Blastoise, which isn't that threatening at 78, but it is threatening if it doubles it with Shell Smash. And then we have our first speed tie, Mesprit and Mandibuzz. And this speed tie is really interesting, because Mandibuzz likes to switch into Mesprit, in theory, because it's a dark type against Mesprit's Psychic. But Mesprit is definitely going to have some coverage move, Ice Beam or Thunderbolt, or Dazzling Gleam, that hits Mandibuzz super effectively on the switch. Okay, but then I want to outspeed it maybe with Mandibuzz and hit it with Knockoff, but I'm not going to kill with Knockoff. And they both want to pivot, right? They're both going to be running U-turn and trying to gain momentum. So there's a sense in which there's a bit of a mind game. Maybe we want to underspeed each other. Maybe we want to go for like a reverse speed creep war, where we take minus speed natures, so that when Mesprit's in against Mandibuzz, we get the tempo, right? one person U-turns and then the other person U-turns, and the second person to U-turn gets the tempo. I don't know. I'll think more about it as we get deeper into the lines. But from a wide perspective, I feel like there's a lot of play for both of us in this matchup. Okay, next is Gholdengo. Now, it's good that Gholdengo is slower than my faster guys, but it's fast enough to do a lot of harm here. I mean, it destroys Hatterene. Ursaluna doesn't like taking a Make It Rain. Mandibuzz is probably going to be my switch-in, so it would be really nice if Mandibuzz was a bit faster, but it isn't. And Gholdengo might want Choice Scarf anyway. It's really good with the Choice Scarf. We'll see. On to the faster Pokemon. So we have my 85s, Rillaboom and Volbeat. Volbeat's basically irrelevant. If it's moving, it's clicking a Prankster move. And Rillaboom is kind of irrelevant too because Grassy Glide. Still important. Outspeeding Gholdengo by 1 means if we click Knockoff, we can hit it before it can hit us back. And that is really good. But Gholdengo has more of an incentive to invest in speed than Rillaboom. Maybe we go Jolly Max Speed on Rillaboom, so that only Choice Scarf Gholdengo outspeeds us. But I'm not sure. Okay, and then Dash Bun, it's fast but not base 100, like these two. Now, Comfey and Salamence is interesting. It kind of doesn't matter that they speed tie, because Comfey Draining Kiss outspeeds anyway. But there's probably a use case where I want to be able to at least speed tie the Salamence. I'm not sure what that is yet, though. Yeah, I guess it lets me trick. If I trick first and then it Dragon Dances, I'm happy. Sorry. If I trick a Choice Specs or a Choice Scarf, if I trick a Choice Scarf, I'm outspeeding anyway. I don't know. I don't know if there's much to this speed tie, although I do think that the matchup is something I want to keep in mind, because I do need a way to deal with Salamence, and Comfey does offer that. Okay. Next we have Infernape, who's pretty quick. I mean, he's outspeeding most things. And then we have my two fastest guys. Last game, these were the two fastest on the field, and I liked it. Today, Greninja is the fastest on the field. With 2 more base speed than Sneasler, Greninja sets the pace. And that's very scary. Now, of course, Unburdened Sneasler is faster than everything. But I was so comfortable last week having the fastest thing, and Greninja looks really annoying. Now I've got outs, right? I especially like Draining Kiss Comfey. Last week Comfey was kind of class clown. Okay, Volbeat was class clown. Comfey was the class clown's cool kid sponsor who was making a reputation sacrifice to give Volbeat the slightest hint of joy in Volbeat's otherwise miserable ongoing existence. This week, though, I think Comfey might be ditching Volbeat and coming back to the cool kids. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's the end of Moment 1. In just another moment, join me as we assess the enemy's offensive options against my team. So, we're going to start by looking at the types of offensive power they have. So we can see the Bouffalants are attacking the ethical retardatives here, and just get a general sense of what kinds of damage is going to be coming my way. Here are the offensive types. Thankfully for me, they don't have stab ice type damage. Now, okay, they've got a Protean Greninja with Ice Beam, so they basically do have stab ice type damage, but I'm going to take the win, and maybe they won't even notice that they've got Protean Greninja. So we can break down further. We can look at the physical damage dealers and the special damage dealers. So here are all the types. Here are the types of damage my opponent can deal on the physical side. And it's pretty scary, particularly flying and poison. Flying and poison are always going to be problems. Thankfully, their flying type physical damage dealer is Salamence, and Salamence's best physical move is Dual Wing Beat, which is kind of bad. If they had a Brave Bird use it, I would be in a lot more trouble. It's still no fun to face Dual Wing Beat, but even after a Dragon Dance, Dual Wing Beat's only as strong as an unboosted Brave Bird, and it misses 10% of the time. so I can get bailed out. Now, poison is not looking so good, but it's just a muck that's dealing poison-type damage. It's not so bad. Greninja and Infernape both get Gunk Shot, which is really bad, but it's not Stab. Protean caveat. We'll talk about that when we get to Greninja. Having a look at the special side, it's as nice as can be, right? Now, it would be better if they didn't have the flying and the fire, but I'll take what I can get. They're hitting types that I want them to hit, right? They're hitting this dragon and this dark. I don't really care about that. Their best Pokemon is Gholdengo, with the Ghost and Steel, but it only is hitting 2 of my Pokemon super effectively. It's going to need coverage moves if it wants to wreak havoc on my wider team, and that's really good. So all in all, looking at the types of damage they can deal, I'm not too scared. So before we look at the individual Pokemon, I just wanted to highlight Lantern here. What you'll notice from Lantern is that it has no weaknesses to any of my opponent's special attackers. I've only got 2 weaknesses, ground and grass, and my opponent doesn't have a special grass type or a special ground type. So, Lantern is looking like a very promising special wall. Given an Assault Vest, max out its special defense, and they can't hurt it with special attacks, really. Comes into Gholdengo, comes into Greninja. I like it. We'll see if they have ways around Lantern, and it's not going to help with their physical attackers if we do that. But hopefully I have other tools against their physical threats. I don't have any other Pokemon that have no special weaknesses, and I've got none at all that have no physical weaknesses. Every Pokemon on my team is weak to at least one of their physical attacking types. Mostly because they have a flying type and a poison type, and that is way too much of my team by itself. So, Greninja. This is a PSA that we should cover before I go any further. Chytrid fungus is ravaging the amphibian populations of our world. Over half of all amphibians are threatened with extinction. They already weren't doing well because of climate change, right? They need stable environmental conditions to survive, and they have temperature-based sex determination, so as the temperature rises, more and more of the frogs and the salamanders will start to be one sex over the other, which is not good for maintaining a population in the long run. And then Chytrid fungus, as I said, is this deathly fungus that messes with the ability of amphibians to take things in and out through the membrane of their skin, and Greninja is not immune. Greninja, lovable Greninja, starter Pokemon, iconic, in terrible danger from Chytrid fungus. If you have a local amphibian representative in your parliamentary system, please donate to them probably your life savings, and if you can steal any extra life savings from other people you know, that would be good too, because without your help, you up there watching this, without you, you might wake up tomorrow and find there are no Greninjas left, and then you will live the rest of your life in regret. Anyway, let's have a look at Greninja's offensive power. It's hitting on the special side, so color-coded blue, and it's using water and dark type moves. My team doesn't mind this at all. I've got only 1 weakness to water, and I've got no weaknesses to dark, and I'm well covered on the resistances. Greninja, if it's coming, is not really hurting me with its stab moves. The downside is Greninja can hit everything else neutrally. So I don't have any Pokemon that resists both water and dark. Greninja's going to have to play a prediction game, but it is going to be able to do chip damage and break through. And with a Battle Bond boost, who knows what it can do, right? Okay, if that was the end of the story, I'd be happy. The problem is, let's have a look at its coverage. Well, that's a bit of a problem. Ice destroys Mandibuzz and my other grasses, and Poison cleans up what's left. The only things that aren't taking super effective damage are Sneasler, which is very squishy and will probably die anyway, and then Lantern and Volbeat. Now, Lantern looks nice, right? Greninja does have grass-type coverage, but it's grass not, which is kind of fake coverage against Lantern, because Lantern's pretty light. So I'm thinking, okay, Lantern looks great. Lantern looks really nice. But the Protean problem, right? There's a Protean problem. So let's have a look at Greninja, what it does more generally. Well, it's a high-cost unit, so my opponent is likely to bring it, It's good. It's really strong. Its role is a sweeper or a pivot. And what does it do? Well, it turns into a poison type or an ice type with Protean. That's the main thing I'm scared of, because I just don't have the tools to deal with it. I can switch Lantern into an Ice Beam, okay, but how do I beat Poison? I mean, Greninja can come in on my Grass types, and then turn into a Poison type before they can deal with it. Battle Bond's also scary. I mean, if it gets a kill, it gets the boosts, but thankfully for Battle Bond, I have these priority moves. I've got strong Grassy Glide and strong Draining Kiss, which are both super effective against Greninja, unless it turns into a Poison type, and then I'm in trouble. Now, if it's Battle Bond, it can't change type. So the Battle Bond one is scary, but the Protean one is my big, big worry. Other weaknesses of Greninja, well, it's frail. It's squishy. It's not going to be able to switch in and take a hit. Most of my Pokemon will OHKO it with whatever random neutral move they... So it's going to be coming in after something of the opponent's dies to get a revenge kill. But once it's in, it's really hard to stop, because it resists my priority attacks, it's faster than my entire team. The saving grace is maybe it doesn't do quite enough damage. Like, it does good damage, but maybe not quite enough. So what kind of moves is it using? Well, we have these special moves, Sludge Wave, Ice Beam, Surf. I actually don't think there's any point bringing Dark Pulse. It doesn't hit anything super effectively. Extrasensory is an interesting tech option. It will absolutely destroy Sneasler, but Sneasler's not really bulky enough for it to matter. But if Greninja wants to ruin Sneasler's day, Extrasensory. It also has some interesting utility moves, so it can act as this kind of pivot with U-turn. And it can do specs switcheroo stuff, or even weirder switcheroo stuff. I mean, switcheroo, there's all kinds of things you can do. Maybe it's switcheroo's a Toxic Orb, who knows. Or it can set spikes. The spike set might actually be a problem. I didn't think too much about it, because I figured the Protean set looked so strong. The offensive Protean set. But the spike set's kind of annoying. The problem is my team really destroys ground types, so you don't really want Protean, but you don't really synergize with Battle Bond. I don't know. I would be surprised if they bring spikes to this battle. Overall, though, mainly for the Protean set, I'm giving Greninja a 9 out of 10 threat score against my team. Ting-Lu. All I really have to say about Ting-Lu is, unless you live in Canada and you have mooses over for brunch every weekend, just be careful around mooses. Don't underestimate them, because they're really, really big. I've never seen a moose. I'm not even certain they exist, but if they do exist, I know that they're bigger than I think that they are. Now, how do they match up in the Pokemon world? Well, Ting-Lu, it's not typically an offensive Pokemon. I remember a Blunder video where he used Choice Band Ting-Lu, but in general it's playing a defensive role. And that's fine. I mean, its coverage is bad against my team. It hits Sneasler and Lantern super effectively, 7 guys neutrally, and can't hurt Mandibuzz. Right, Mandibuzz ruins Ting-Lu's life. It comes in, it poisons it, which Ting-Lu hates, it defogs away any kind of hazards Ting-Lu tries to put up, and then it pivots out. Mandibuzz just crushes Ting-Lu's soul, I think. Does coverage change anything? Well, it's got some interesting coverage options. Particularly, it's got Rock Slide, or Stone Edge, which do help it a lot. Lets it hit, Volbeat's not coming along. Lets it hit Ogerpon and Mandibuzz. And then it's got Heavy Slam for my fairies. So it does have decent coverage, like it can get itself to an offensive position. But, I don't know, it just doesn't look that good. From an analysis perspective, what does it do? Well, it's high cost Pokemon, defensive, hazard setter. What's scary about it? Well, its defensive stats are insane, especially with the ability. It is very, very hard to kill. It switches into Ursaluna's Blood Moon, which is a neutral, insane damage thing. Fine. It can take a Blood Moon and do something back. I'm not OHKOing this thing, except maybe with something like Choice Band Woodhammer from Rillaboom in grassy terrain. That might do it. But it's just very, very bulky. It also has hazards and phasing, so it can click Stealth Rock, and then whirlwind you around, it can click Spikes. And it also really likes the grassy terrain if I give it grassy terrain. They say that a Ting-Lu and its leftovers are more inseparable than 2 lovebirds, like little chirpy, finchy lovebirds, who are so in love, even more inseparable than that bond between those two lovebirds, is Tinglu and his leftovers. However, Tinglu just has so many problems against my team. It's weak to grass and fairy. Half of my team is either grass or fairy. I'm really going in on grass and fairy as my types, and they both annihilate Tinglu. Greninja's also weak to grass and fairy. It's got the same problem. But Greninja outspeeds everything. Tinglu doesn't. Tinglu's taking a hit from my grasses and my fairies. And that's really bad for Tinglu. It's also passive, so I can do something like get Ogerpon in on it, Encore it into something, and then set up, and Tinglu can't really deal damage back. So I've got lots of ways to exploit it for being slow and probably not very attack invested. And it just doesn't beat anything on my team. I don't have anything weak to it. My electric type, Lantern, is also a water type, so that matchup is really muddy. Yeah, my psychic type is also a fairy type, so the dark doesn't really help it. It's a good Pokemon, and it has lots of good moves, but I just think it's kind of weak against my team. It's not convincing. This guy, on the other hand, you may have heard tale of old money. They speak of him in the quiet places, in the back rooms of taverns, and alleyways into which no sensible person would dare to tread. Old Money has his fingers, as the proverbs say, in every single pie. He has many known conspirators, and whenever you feel an itch or hear a strange buzzing in your ears, there is no way to know whether perhaps Old Money, the past paradox form of Gholdengo, is behind it. And today, I have the misfortune of facing the very same Gholdengo in combat. Offensively, it's not that impressive. It beats my fairies, neutral against everything else. No, it's not bad. It can click a lot of moves, but it's not shredding through my team. The problem with Old Money, as they say, is its defensive typing. It shuts down my fairies, it shuts down my grasses, and it stonewalls Sneasler. The Sneasler has dark type coverage, so Sneasler can get through, but it's immune to poison and immune to fighting. So if Sneasler ever wants to click either of its good moves, Gholdengo can just switch in with impunity, threaten to one-shot me back with Make It Rain. It's really strong, and it's really strong against my team. Ursaluna can hit it with super effective Earth Power. It can run Air Balloon. Ursaluna can hit it with Blood Moon for resisted damage because of Mind's Eye. Or hit it with a super effective Vacuum Wave. And then hit it with Earth Power. But it has play against Ursaluna. And not only does it have so many good sets, it has a diverse investment portfolio, which is going to see it raking in the cash over the coming century. What are its problems? Well, I match up quite well against it with my defogger. That's one of the saving graces. Gholdengo hates Mandibuzz. Sure, I can't defog, but Mandibuzz has knockoff, it has pivoting, it has tools, I can invest it specially defensive, and it can kind of take Gholdengo's hits. Make It Rain still does a chunk, but it debuffs Gholdengo. So, compared to the other possible hazard control options, Gholdengo doesn't completely shut me down. It also gets one hit by Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel. Thankfully, I have an offensive tool against it. And my specially defensive Lantern with an Assault Vest is resisting Make It Rain, and it's shrugging off Shadow Ball too. So, I definitely have play against it. The final weakness of Gholdengo is notoriously the 2008 financial crisis. Gholdengo had invested in a lot of New York property at the time, and when the housing market collapsed, Gholdengo was not ruined because Gholdengo has a diverse investment portfolio, but it really bit into Gholdengo's bottom line. He had to cancel his holiday to the Bahamas, he had to get a second mortgage on his house, and he had to sell one of his children. It was a whole thing. He's recovered, of course. I mean, the stocks always go up. But for a moment there, it was looking dodgy. What does it do? Well, it has powerful special moves, like Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, and Focus Blast. It has a lot of tricky utility moves, Nasty Plot, Thunderwave, and it can hold a whole bunch of different items. Overall, I would give Gholdengo a 10 out of 10 threat score. As a future Henry, looking back, I overestimated it. My team actually has more ways to deal with Gholdengo than I thought. However, I was kind of tunnel visioned on the Sneasler matchup, so I overestimated how strong Gholdengo was against my team. I still think it's very good. In hindsight, I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. But when I was in this phase of preparation, I was just terrified of it. I thought it was haunting my dreams. I'd wake up in a cold sweat and think, old money, it's old money. How do I compete with old... It was a whole thing. Anyway, moving on to the ape. So this is Infernape. You might know him from the hit video game League of Legends, where he is a playable character. Incineroar and Greninja get into Smash Bros. Infernape got into League of Legends. That's all I'm saying. How does it do against my team? Well, fire is pretty annoying. I only have 1 resist. And combined with fighting, it lets my opponent hit 4 Pokemon super effectively. One of them is Volbeat, so who cares? It's basically 3. But that's still annoying. And the other 6 neutrally. So there's nothing that resists its stab combination. It also has a lot of coverage. Look at this. I mean, it's a mixed attacker, so a few of these types aren't available to the special variant, but I think the physical variant is stronger anyway. Anything useful against my team? Well, yes, it's got poison, so it can hit my fairy types, and it's got ground, so it can hit Lantern and Sneasler, and it's got rock, so it can hit Ogerpon and Mandibuzz. The only thing stopping Incineroar from having perfect coverage against my team is the fact that it can only run 4 moves. I think my battle against it is going to be a matter of figuring out which move my opponent has brought, and then using the Pokemon that it hasn't got the move to deal with against it. It's going to be... I'm going to have to make some reads, is what I'm thinking. Okay, turn to the analysis. Oh man, next time I need to put the items and the movesets up front, I'm noticing. Oh well, we'll do that for the next video. Tune in, and next time these slides will be even more coherent. But not today. For now, you'll get to see those at the end. What does Infernape do? Well, it's a pretty good lead. It gets Stealth Rock for some crazy reason, so it can do like Taunt, Stealth Rock, big damage, whatever. It can sweep, it gets Swords Dance and Nasty Plot, so it can sweep on either side. And it's a great pivot with Choice Scarf, Choice Band, just big U-turns, big damage. It's good. I'm running a grassy team, so a fire type is a problem. And then the other thing is that I brought an ape to a monkey fight, and there's an old adage that says never bring an ape to a monkey fight, because famously monkeys have tails and apes don't, and the extra appendage is just an unfair difference in the monkey's favor. What's the problem with Infernape? Well, similar to Greninja, it's frail. If it's using a choice item, my opponent's going to have to make good reads, and I can kind of play around it. And unfortunately for my opponent, they brought a monkey to a man fight. Now, some say that men are a kind of ape. I say as a taxonomist that apes are a kind of monkey, but I digress. The problem with bringing a monkey to a man fight is that my man is faster than their monkey, and it one-shots it with close combat. They bring an Infernape and revenge kill something of mine, I bring in Sneasler and revenge kill Infernape, and repeat. That's the story. Here we get to see those fabled moves. Fire and Fighting Stab, Gunk Shot U-Turn, and then there's more utility moves than listed here. It's got some wacky stuff. Items, you kind of give it anything. You could give it a Type Resistance Berry if you think you know what lead I'm going to use. Yeah, I honestly, going into this battle, had no idea what set my opponent could bring. There's a whole massive range. Crazy move pool. Overall, 8 out of 10. I think it's really strong. I'm a grass team, it's a fire type. What more can I say? Next up is Mesprit, the obligate elf of the team. Mesprit's kind of a weirdo. I don't know much about elves. You don't study them in university. They only come out a few days per year. And I don't know. I saw that documentary. It's called Lord of the Rings. But I didn't think that it was very accurate to the elves. Like, you know, I see elves on the street and they're like little funny people. I thought Lord of the Rings was a bit... It says based on a true story, but I think they were taking creative liberties. Anyway, how does Mesprit do? Well, Psychic is looking pretty underwhelming. Yeah, it beats Sneasler, but I've got Mandibuzz, which is immune, and Hatterene, which doesn't mind taking a Psychic type move. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, Misfit has some really annoying coverage, particularly Ice. I do appreciate the aesthetics of its nice, colourful rainbow of coverage. Ice is really annoying. The kicker is that it can terrestrialize poison, and if it terrestrializes poison, it goes from being a type that I don't care about to a type that absolutely troubles me. Look at this. Terra Poison hits 5 of my Pokemon. Ice and Grass hit all the rest except for Volbeat. This thing with a nasty plot and Terra Poison, and it's not weak to Earth Power, mind you, it's immune to Earth Power from my Ursaluna because of Levitate, is very, very scary. Now, they have to commit Terra to it, but I think they will. I think you could send this in turn 1 and click Terrestrialize and be really happy against my team. I think Terra Poison is just so strong. How does it look in detail? It's cheaper, but it's their Terra Captain, and it just has this crazy coverage, right? It's got the Levitate Poison type thing going on. It's got Bolt Beam. It doesn't need the Bolt. The Beam is enough. The Sludge Beam is enough. And it can do crazy things with Calm Mind. It has a huge move pool. It can learn everything under the sun, but the Terra Poison set is what I'm most scared of. Weaknesses? Well, mediocrity is its problem. Its base stats are weird. It's got slightly less HP and speed than Mew, but 5 more in the other stats. Losing the speed is pretty sad for it, I think. I think if it had 100 speed, it would be a lot better. It can't really deal with my dark types. It can click Dazzling Gleam if it wants, but I think Mandibuzz kind of has its day with it, except for Terra Poison, so I can't Toxic it, and it's not weak to dark. And I think its biggest issue is that it needs time to set up. It needs a turn to click a setup move. So as long as I can keep momentum up against it, I think I can kind of stop it getting going. Once it gets going, I probably lose. But I should be able to get in there before it happens. Here's an example of 1% of Mesprit's move pool. Beautiful coverage, Tauntaun U-turn, Calm Mind, Stealth Rock. It can do whatever it wants. Mesprit is a free elf. I give it a 7 out of 10. Next up is Blastoise, the turtle. And the thing that always impressed me about Blastoise is how long they live. So if you see a Blastoise in the wild, that thing was around during World War One. It probably remembers when the Titanic sank. It might remember a dinosaur. Aged things. Who knows what wisdoms they hold. Unfortunately, they can't speak or think. So we'll never know. Coverage-wise, it's a water type, and I'm a grass type team, so it's bad. It hits Ursaluna, hits these guys neutrally, and I have 3 Pokemon that resist water. I don't think Blastoise is good. Let's have a look at its coverage. Well, it's got quite a weird coverage option. Steel, Dragon, Dark. Ice is good. Ice is what they'll use. They could consider Steel again for my fairies, but non-stab Flash Cannon is not that strong. I don't know. It doesn't make the heart sore. And critically, it just got nothing for Lantern. It's got Earthquake, so that the ground type coverage here is physical. Maybe that's something that can flip the script on Lantern, but yeah, I'm not sold. And ground is so bad against everything else on my team. What does it do? Well, cost 10. It can spin. It can sweep. I'm not scared of it though. It's a water type. Who cares? If it Shell Smashes, I just Grassy Glider. Who cares? It's got 2 cannons, but no cannonballs. What's its weaknesses? Everything, right? All my grass types can't hurt Lantern, and it has crippling back pain because it's got 2 cannons on its back. Here's some moves. I didn't know it got Water Spout. I think that's quite funny. I like to imagine water spouting from Blastoise, but Water Spout's not going to save it. I give it a 2 out of 10. I don't think they're bringing it. Next up is the nose himself. The big nose. The real nose. It's Probopass. Now this is an interesting Probopass. They've chosen to make it a Terra Captain, and they've chosen Grass and Ghost as their Terra types. Presumably, Grass is for the ground resistance, among other things, and Ghost is for a fighting resistance. The offense is not too bad against my team, actually. It hits 5 super effectively. Combination of Rock and Steel. And the rest neutrally. If Probopass was good, then I would be scared. It's just a bad Pokemon. What does it get for non-stab moves? Well, Electric, Fighting, and Ground. Are any of these useful? Yeah, Ground's pretty good. Sneasel and Lantern. Fighting hits Ursaluna. It's not so bad, but it's a Probo Pass, so I'm just not that worried. Its role is basically to click Stealth Rocks. It clicks Stealth Rocks, and then it lives a hit with Sturdy, and then it dies. It does have good resistances. It's a Steel type, and it can do like an Iron Defense Body Press thing. The problem is, my strongest Pokemon are Sneasler, which does Fighting type damage, and Ursaluna, which is a Ground type. One way or another, Probopass is pincered. It's got terrible offensive stats anyway. Body Press is resisted by a whole lot of things on my team. Hatterene double resists it, so even if it gets a bunch of Body Presses, Hatterene can still deal with it. And it has to Terra to be relevant, I think. And the problem with that is that they really, really want to Terra Mesprit. I think they have to Terra Mesprit. But if you bring Probopass and don't Terra it, why did you bring Probopass? So, I give it a 1 out of 10. Now, I actually think it's better than Blastoise if you Terrestrialize, but the opportunity cost is way too high. You can't Terrestrialize this thing, because Mesprit loves the Terra so much and is so much better with it. Dachshund. A aromatic twist on your favorite local hound. What does it do? Well, it's a fairy type, which means it doesn't really interact with my team much at all. I have 1 resistance and 1 weakness, so we get a chart that looks like this with 8 neutralities. Does it get coverage? Yeah, it gets coverage. I mean, its offensive stats aren't the best anyway, but it can run fighting type damage, or it can run other stuff. It can run Psychic Fangs to hit Sneasler, which is kind of nice, but overall I'm not too afraid. Oh, my threat score's been leaked. Listen, guys, I don't have time to do another edit. It's taken up my whole week making these slides as immaculate as they are. So you're going to have to cope with the spoilers of knowing how I rate Dashbon. Cost is 4. What does it do? It switches into Ivy Cudgel with Well-Baked Body. Oh wait, no it doesn't. Ogerpon has Mold Breaker, so their fire immunity can't stop my fire type. Sorry, Dashbun, where's your niche again? You died a Dire Claw, you're weak, you're bad. Well, the pivoting set is actually kind of good. You've got Wish, you've got Dry Baton Pass, you've got Roar. It's nice, you can build it defensively, its defense stat is its only good stat. I don't hate it, but I kind of hate it though. Final 2, here's Salamence. I recently found out that there's this myth that Salamences will bite their prey, inject their prey with poison, and then wait for the poison to kill their prey and then kind of follow after them. I recently learned that that myth isn't a myth. Now you might be thinking, well, hang on, I didn't know that in the first place. Well, there's been a rabbit hole, right? Because first I was like, that's a cool fact. I didn't know Salamences did that. And then I was like, it's a myth. It's not real. They just chomp their prey to death. But then I was like, no, it is real. The anti-myth people were lying or wrong. There is a poison in Salamences' venom. Now, I suspect, like with all animal behavior things, we just kind of don't know, or there are people who know but they haven't written it down. It'll be exciting to see how the field of Salamence behavior plays out. But don't get bitten by one, in any case, because your tissues will necrotize. Is that the word? They'll become necrotic from the inside, so don't let it bite you. How does it do offensively? Dragon's pointless, flying is terrifying. 5 super effective hits, all from the flying type. 5 neutral hits, all from the flying type. It doesn't need dragon. I mean, it can run dragon, if it wants. The only thing it's going to do better against is Lantern. But is that worth it? I don't really think so. How about coverage? Well, it gets a lot of coverage options. And there are a few that are scary. Steel, to hit those fairies that want to come in. Salamences the dragon, the fairies come in. Hit them with an iron head. They won't like it. Also, rock looks okay if I have a physically defensive Mandibuzz that's trying to wall it. What does it do in battle? Well, it can break, it can sweep. Intimidate's kind of annoying. It's a switch in for Sneasler. If I try to get my Sneasler going crazy, you can kind of go to Salamence, Intimidate, sack something, Intimidate, and get rid of any Swords Dances that I try to build up. Hurricane is terrifying. If Hurricane was 100% accurate, I would give Salamence a 10 out of 10 for Specs Hurricane. But it's not. It's 70% accurate. So 30% of the time, it does nothing. Obviously. I think the Dragon Dance set is also okay with dual Wing Beat. I think Specs Hurricane is probably the best. but it remains to be seen. Weaknesses, it has no accuracy, right? Draco Meteor has low accuracy, Air Slash and Hurricane have low accuracy, Dual Wing Beat has low accuracy. It just gives me extra time to deal with it. I also have 2 fairies, and Comfey, especially with its priority fairy damage, is really annoying for Salamence. And Salamence, although it can boost its speed with Dragon Dance, it doesn't have any priority moves of its own. It doesn't have extreme speed like Dragonite. But it does have a colourful move pool and a lot of options, set options. Overall, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, purely because of the fairies. I think that it does match up well into most of my team, but it really struggles to deal with Hatterene and Comfey. Even with a lead, they can kind of come in and force it out. It just feels like it's not quite there. And then, finally, Muck. Comatrica Contra, the slime mold. What does it do? I hate it. It's a monotype. I do have 2 resistances in Sneasler and Ursaluna, but the poison type damage is, as we know, horrific for my team. Coverage, it's a Gen 1 Pokemon, it gets a lot of coverage, and quite a lot of it is actually useful too. So Ice lets it hit Mandibuzz and Ursaluna, and I skipped it when I was making this slide, but I shouldn't have. It gets Zen Headbutt, which flips the Sneasler matchup from kind of equal, we don't know, to, Muck just one-shot Sneasler. So I think Zen Headbutt is the dark horse of Muck's moveset. How does it look? Well, it's a low-cost unit, but it matches up well against my team. Poison-type Stab, Knockoff and Poison Touch, good special bulk. Problems, it dies to Earth Power, so Ursaluna looks really good. It has 4 move slot syndrome, so it wants to run all these weird moves. It wants to run Knockoff and Pain Split and Haze and coverage to hit all my different Pokemon. It can't fit them all. It kind of has to choose a specialty and do that one thing well. But yeah, it does get all these weird moves. Knockoff, Drain Punch, then Headbutt, Pain Split, Curse. It could Curse up. It could run any item it wants. Maybe not Choice Specs, but it has a lot of set variety if it wants it. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10, just because I hate poison types. I think it's pretty good. So, here's my overall rankings for part 2. In last place, Probopass at 1. In second to last, Blastoise and Dashbot at 2. In fourth, Tinglu. Fifth, with 6 points, Salamence. And then moving into the strong Pokemon, Mesprit and Muck at 7. Infernape at 8. Greninja at 9. And Gholdengo at 10. Curse you, old money. Join me next time when we dive even deeper into the matchups between these 10 Pokemon and my loyal compatriots. Let's talk tempo. If you're new to the channel, this is my favorite part. This is where we go crazy. I love spreadsheets and graphs and numbers, and this is where we can really go in on all the interactions between all the possible matchups of all of our Pokemon. This is something that I love about Draft League compared to regular Pokemon, where the OU metagame, for example, might have 40-something Pokemon, and that grid would be 40 by 40, right? And that's 1600 matchups. Here, it's 10 by 10. It's 100 matchups. We can count to 100. Let's start, shall we? With Greninja. So, plus here indicates our Pokemon has tempo against the opponent. Basically, the opponent has to switch out. We like the matchup, they don't like the matchup. They want to change, and we get to make some progress. The terrestrialize symbol for Gogoat means Gogoat has tempo if it terrestrializes, and doesn't if it doesn't terrestrialize. So, Greninja, we have 3 Pokemon with tempo, Lantern, Rillaboom, Sneasler, plus Gogoat. Tinglu, everything. Yellow means either I just can't tell, like it's really complicated, or it's really set dependent, and it can go either way. For example, if we look at Sneasler and Tinglu, well, Sneasler has close combat, which is super effective against Tinglu, but doesn't kill a physically defensive Tinglu. And Tinglu has Earthquake, but Earthquake doesn't kill Sneasler without investment, especially on grassy terrain, which halves the damage of Earthquake. So it's very complex. It's going to be very dependent on 1,000 factors in game. So I've marked it as yellow. But I mean, Tinglu looks really bad against my team. I have tempo against it with pretty much everything, and it doesn't beat anything at all. Okay, Gholdengo. Gholdengo looks less bad than I expected. When I was earlier in my prep, I was like, Gholdengo is the menace of this team. I can't face Gholdengo. Now it kind of looks like Greninja's actually more scary. Like Gholdengo, don't get me wrong, is bad for my team, but I have ways around it. Especially, I think I was underestimating how good Ogerpon Hearthflame is against Gholdengo. It's perfectly reasonable as a switch in. I was underestimating Infernape. Infernape is a problem. I mean, Terra Water Go-Go technically can beat it, especially with Grass Pout, Defense Boost, and Grassy Terrain. But Terra Water Go-Go... My plan to check Infernape is to terrestrialize Go-Go and then use Specs Surf, because Go-Go gets Surf, to one-shot Infernape. That's so gimmicky. I don't think it's going to work. Apart from that, Sneasler counters it offensively but can't switch in. It's kind of just Mandibuzz, my only real switch in, and Mandibuzz can't kill it quickly, but it can foul play if Infernape trusts his Swords Dance. Infernape looks really bad, according to the grid. How about Misprit? Well, Misprit doesn't look too bad. The problem is the terrestrialize issue muddies the water a lot. So I can deal with a Psychic type Misprit, but a Poison type Misprit, or a Misprit that could become a Poison type, but not necessarily, is much more confusing. Okay, Blastoise. It's terrible against my team. I have tempo against it with pretty much everything, and if it comes in on Ursaluna, I'll just switch to Lantern and it will lose. It can click Shell Smash and double its damage so that it does 12% instead of 6% to Lantern. Oh, woe is me. If they bring Blastoise, they're basically bringing 5 Pokemon and a sacrifice. It's worse than my Volbeat, I think. Probopass is okay. It's okay. I mean, it's got bad matchups, but it's got some matchups it's okay against. It's kind of annoying for Ogerpon Hearthflame. Body Press actually does quite a lot of damage. Mandibuzz can't really touch it, it's immune to Toxic. The problem is, I think it needs Terra, as I said earlier, and Misprit just likes the Terra so much more. How about Dashbun? It's also really bad. Now, unlike Blastoise, I think Dashbun is being underestimated by the grid, because although it loses against everything, it can wish Baton Pass, and yes, it switches out. It has to switch out, but it switches out with quite a lot of advantage given to my opponent. They get tempo, they get healing. I think Dashbun is better than this makes it look, but probably still not that good. Salamence, yeah. I feel quite vindicated, because I think on paper, Salamence could be terrifying. Like, I don't have a Hurricane switch in. It's just that Comfey and Hatterene kind of annoy it so much. You can switch into Earth Power from Ursaluna, but then it dies to a Blood Moon. It doesn't really have a good chance to set up on me. Don't underestimate it. It's still good, right? It's really annoying for Ogerpon Hearthflame. It stonewalls Ogerpon Hearthflame. Intimidate, and it quadruple resists Grass and normally resists Fire. It's good, but it's not sublime. Finally, Muck. And Muck is pretty annoying for my team. Both of my Terra Captains could turn Steel type and beat it, but I kind of want them to be Water type to beat Infernape. If I go turn Steel type, I lose their advantage against Infernape. Volbeat can kind of annoy it. I can't do much to Volbeat. Volbeat can paralyze it and get momentum. And then Ursaluna clicks Earth Power. If I don't bring Ursaluna, I might actually lose to Muck. Now, Ursaluna beats it really well. Ursaluna probably gets poisoned and eventually gets worn down, but it does do a really good job of one-shotting Muck with Earth Power. However, I'm scared of Muck. I think that the thing about this grid is that I can go over it pretty quick, but this takes me so long to put together because I have to go through all of these combinations one by one and think about them. It's definitely the most time-consuming part of the prep, but it won't be the most time-consuming part of the video. The grid is more for my chances of winning the battle, and I'm glad to be able to share it because I think it looks pretty, and I feel very satisfied in having made it. We can tally up the scores, see how good our Pokemon are. In first place, with 7 winning matchups, is Lantern. Now the way I've scored it is if you have a yellow symbol or a terrestrialized symbol, I give you half a point, and then I round the final points down. So Lanterns would be 7.5, but it rounds down to 7. And the reason I round down to 7 is because it looks nicer, and I believe in aesthetics. The grid, when it comes to the grid, aesthetics come first. Now, I've messed up here, haven't I? Because Rillaboom only has 6 wins. In second place would technically be Ursaluna with 6.5, and then Rillaboom and Sneasler. Who are the losers? Well, Comfey looks really bad on tempo, and it is pretty bad on tempo. It has to switch out of a lot of things. And, of course, Volbeat looks bad. Volbeat is bad. Comfey, though, will get a redemption arc in a couple of slides. If we add in all the losses and look at the enemy's tempo, who's winning? Well, it's not Tinglu. Tinglu's down the bottom with 1, and that's generous. That's me giving it 1.5 points for the yellows. At the top, Infernape. Infernape and Muck. And yeah, like after running all the calcs, I kind of agree. Infernape and Muck are what I'm really scared of. Gholdengo, I gave it a 10 out of 10, but with Mandibuzz and Ogerpon and Lantern, I think I can deal with it. Sure, it destroys Sneasler, and that sucks. But I'm not even convinced it destroys Sneasler anymore, because Sneasler does outspeed and does a hefty amount of damage with Throat Chop. Blastoise is a fraud. Dash Bun maybe could be redeemed. We'll see. Let's have a look at progress next. So the idea of progress is when one person has to switch out, the other person gets to use a move of their choosing without the opponent being able to use a move back. The thing about progress is you always make progress against the opponent's Pokemon that's best against you. So if I'm in with Ursaluna and they're in with Greninja, and they have the tempo, right? Greninja beats Ursaluna with Ice Beam, so I have to switch. Now, what's not going to happen is Greninja killing Ursaluna with Ice Beam, unless it's the very end of the game and I'm sacrificing Ursaluna. What's more likely to happen is I'm going to switch into a Resistance, I'll switch into a Specially Defensive Lantern, and the progress that Greninja makes is the damage it does to Lantern. And then it'll be my tempo, and I get to make a progress against his Lantern switching. So, what I'm assessing here is what kind of progress can I make? Sorry about that, my package arrived. It's presents from my brother. I brought him some stress toys that he can destroy at his leisure. So let's look at the progress Sneasler can make. Well, it's not so bad, right? If Tinglu or Gholdengo try to switch in, I do half their health, and I flip the matchup. So green means it used to be a losing matchup, but with the progress it's actually winning. When Mesprit and Salamence come in, I do a sizable chunk, right, 35 and 48, but I don't flip the matchup. I don't do enough to suddenly win. I still have to switch out. But they can't do this forever. Like, eventually I'm going to do enough damage that, well, in fact, if I do it twice, I'll flip the matchup. With Muck, I'm doing 22%. It can heal from leftovers. It'll ship me with Rocky Helmet. I'm not flipping this matchup. Sneasler just loses to Muck. I can flip it if he's on like 1% health. But in most ordinary scenarios, I think that Sneasler just loses to Muck. There's not much I can do. Not much progress I can make when Muck is alive. Ursaluna, on the other hand, anything that it would lose to dies on switch in if I click the right move, which is satisfying. And this is what Ursaluna did. This is how I won my previous game. I just clicked Blood Moon and they couldn't switch in. They had no way to take the hit. I'm thinking I'll just do it again. Like, it's so powerful. I can see when this Pokemon's Uber. It is insane. How about Rillaboom? Rillaboom's pretty good too. I mean, I'm calculating it with the Choice Band because I'm going to be running a Choice Band most of the time. And yeah, one-shots Gholdengo with Knockoff, one-shots Infernape with Grassy Terrain Woodhammer, resisted move, still one-shots. Salamence and Market, it's not killing, it's not flipping the matchup, but it is doing a hefty chunk. Ogerpon looks okay too. Salamence is the problem thing, but it's flipping most of its losing matchups. How about Mandibuzz? Well, it's not an offensive Pokemon, so I'm not going to get a matchup flip, but I can make other kinds of progress. So the black icon is a switch icon, so I can U-turn. They come in, I U-turn, I get another tempo, I get another shot, and I can choose what kind of progress I want to make. It kind of preserves my advantage and chips them. Amazing. Salamence I can Toxic if it tries to set up on me, which is also really nice. Katarine is good. I have a lot of these slow but really strong attackers that, oh, you've got a Mesprit, right? It's powerful. Okay, well, I can hit it with a Specs Dazzling Gleam that does 47% of its health. So there. Comfey's bad. Comfey's not good at this. The strength of Comfey comes in its priority as a kind of heavy hitter. Like, they can switch into Gholdengo and I can chip it, but not much more. They can switch into Muck and I can chip it and not much more. Again, this is not Comfey's strength. Comfey will get its time. Lantern's mediocre. It flips the Infernape matchup if it hits it with a Skull. It's one-shot Infernape. The other matchups are dubious at best. Go-Goat is bad. I don't think I'm bringing Go-Goat. It has some weird gimmick uses, but I don't think it's doing enough. The only matchup it flips if they switch into it is Dash Bun, and I don't think Dash Bun's good. And then Volbeat's just paralyzing things or switching with Baton Pass. So that's the kind of overview. Ursaluna is my champion, right? Ursaluna wields the sword. It sits on the throne. It has no switch-ins on my opponent's team. Rillaboom and Hatterene are in close second. They also are hard to switch into. Overall, like, I'm happy. Like, this looks nice. I think all I have to do is generate a bit of momentum and then tear my opponent's team down, right? They just don't have the defensive resources they need to stop me, I think. But maybe they have the offensive resources. Here we are in the enemy progress chamber, and we can see Greninja is a problem. So we're in the reverse situation, right? And X means it's bad for me. It means Greninja KOs my guy in one shot. Red is bad, yellow is hard to tell, and then green is I can switch in fine. So Sneasler, if it tries to switch into Greninja for close combat, it just dies, right? Greninja just one-shots it with Specs Surf or something. Same with Rillaboom. It looks good. You think I can Grassy Glide it? No, it's going to Ice Beam you or Sludge Wave you and you're going to die. So Greninja, I think, is a genuine problem. Tinglu, the dark here means Ruination. I didn't really know how to write Ruination in this format. 50% of your health, but it's not 50, right? Like, if I'm on 10% health, it does 5%. I'm not so worried. It can use ground-type moves against Sneasler and Lantern, but it has to decide between running Earthquake, which is good, but weakened by grassy terrain, or Stomping Tantrum, which is better in grassy terrain, but weaker outside of grassy terrain. I don't know. It doesn't seem that impressive. Gholdengo, surprisingly okay. This is what I was worried about. I was terrified that I couldn't deal with Gholdengo, but both Ogerpon and Mandibuzz can switch in. They take a third of their health, but Ogerpon can generate a whole bunch of momentum and do a whole bunch of damage, and Mandibuzz can just roost it off, right? Mandibuzz is fine. So Gholdengo, it's lowering in my estimations. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I probably would have given it a 9 out of 10 last moment. Now I'm thinking maybe an 8 out of 10. I mean, it's still strong, but I'm more scared of Infernape and Greninja. Speaking of Infernape, this thing is a problem. The only thing that can switch into it without losing is Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz is like kind of over-leveraged. But at least I have Mandibuzz, right? At least I have Mandibuzz, the last bastion of defense against Infernape. Mesprit looks pretty annoying. It's doing more than half of my health to a lot of things. Mesprit's very prediction reliant, though. So I'm using the best case scenario for my opponent here. So this is if they get the right super effective move. It's not killing anything, it's just chipping them pretty hard. But against anything slower, that will flip the matchup. That's enough. Yeah, Mesprit's hard to tell. There's a lot going for it because it has so much set variety and different Terra types, although Poison's the best. There's just a lot of factors that I can't communicate in 2 bubbles in a grid. Next up is Blastoise. It's bad. Moving on. Probopass. It does actually flip some matchups. This is kind of scary. Like, it can hit Hatterene with a Steel type move. It can body press for a lot of damage on my Terra Captains. It's still kind of bad though. Dash One's terrible, does nothing. Salamence is scary. Not killing anything, but hefty chunks to the fairies if they try to switch in. For the fairies, if I try to, say, switch Hatterene into Salamence, it can click Ironhead and the matchup instantly flips. Salamence just wins. So neither of my fairies are reliable switches. In fact, Lantern's my most reliable switch. Why? Well, it's got Ice Beam, and Salamence can't deal with it. The thing is, that's a physically bulky Lantern, and the specially bulky Lantern looks so good. So I think I'm going to have to pursue other avenues. Ursaluna can also switch in once or twice, but it's not reliable. And then Muck. And Muck's kind of so-so. Don't have too much to say. How do the scores pan out? Well, they don't have any 10 out of 10s. They don't have any unswitchable Pokemon like I do. So I'm feeling pretty okay. Greninja looks scary, but at least I have Lantern. Infernape looks scary, but at least I have Mandibuzz. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Here are my scores. This is how many Pokemon of theirs I can switch into and be okay. Mandibuzz, no surprise, but Ogerpon has surprisingly good defensive properties in this match. So, here are the overall scores, and it's time for the weekly medal ceremony. First, we must review how many medals have been delivered so far. Well, last week, Ursaluna got a gold, and Sneasler and Ogerpon tied for silver. This week, 2 golds go to Ursaluna and Lantern, and Rillaboom takes the bronze, making the final standings as such. Now, if you look up here, up there, you'll see that Ursaluna is cracked. That's the moral of life, I suppose. Ursaluna is just crazy. I'm proud of Lantern, though. What a good fish. Gold medal today. You earned it, Lantern. This is the final grid section. We're in the end stages. And I just want to go over the kinds of crazy scenarios that could occur. Do they have some sweeper, or do I have some sweeper that if it gets going is just unstoppable? So we'll just go through them quickly. First up, Battle Bond Greninja. The premise is the sweeper on the left has had a free turn to get set up, right? It's done its thing. In this case, Greninja has procced its Battle Bond. It's got +1 attack, +1 special attack, and +1 speed. A tick in the grid means the sweeper can one-shot it or get over it without any problem. So in this case, Greninja can click Sludge Wave, and Ogerpon and Hatterene just get outsped and die. They don't do anything at all. A yellow diamond in the grid indicates that the Pokemon can outspeed in one shot, or otherwise beat without problem, if the Pokemon at the top is below that amount of health. So if Mandibuzz is below 78% health, Greninja can guaranteed kill it with Ice Beam. You'll see that Lantern has to be below 20% health for Greninja to beat it. If it's above 20% health, it'll survive the hit and discharge. So Lantern's looking really strong, but if my opponent can weaken it enough, Greninja can do the final blow. A red circle with a number indicates that Greninja will take that percent of health if the Pokemon comes in. So if we look here, the red circle is between Greninja and Ursaluna, and it's got a 49. What that means is, once Greninja's procced Battle Bond, Ursaluna will come in and vacuum wave Greninja, dealing 49% of Greninja's health, and then it will die. The red X here indicates that if the Pokemon is alive at all, no matter what health, it will beat Greninja. So Sneasler will proc Unburden and then close combat. Greninja can't stop it. Time skip. It has been about 5 hours since I paused. The reason why I paused is that guy there. So last week for me, and I don't know, 7 hours ago, however long this video is, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour ago, for you, the stray cat turned up. And he's really nice and friendly. And we took him to the vet, and he doesn't have a microchip, and he wasn't neutered. So I have a cat now. I've acquired a cat, and I had to pause the recording because he was coming home from the vet. He's really high, he's drugged up, but he's gotten all of his procedures done, and now I have to come up with a name. Now, what do you call a cat? I don't know. I've got some ideas. I quite like Pod, and I quite like Pip. He just feels like a short one-syllable kind of guy. Our other cats are called Gustav and Johann, and I want to go for something a little different with this guy. Anyway, on with the show. What was I talking about? I don't remember. It was ages ago. It was probably about the funny shapes that I've put on my funny grid. Yeah. I was probably saying something like, well, Greninja looks okay against my team, but if I have Rillaboom or Comfey or Sneasler, it looks kind of bad. Should we just move on? The past is far behind us, and the future doesn't exist. So here's Nasty Plot Gholdengo. You see, it's not very good. The only thing it can deal with in one hit is Hatterene. Everything else needs to be weakened. It's going to take these bits of chip damage. I mean, it's okay. If you can manage to get hazards up and make me switch around a bunch, it can do something, but it's certainly not as good as I thought it would be going into this. Here's Swords Dance, Infernape. It's not thrilling me. I mean, it loses to Sneasler. I'm not really liking Swords Dance. Infernape against my team. Nasty Plot is kind of the same. You flip a couple matchups, it's kind of same difference. Nasty Plot Mesprit, though, looks pretty strong against my team. You can see 6 of my Pokemon it beats. I think this is with Draining Kiss, so it's not one-shotting them, it's just healing more damage than they can deal. It does beat a lot of things, but my really big, strong, heavy hitters will outspeed it and hit it before it can hit back. I think it's still the best of these options, though. No hard losses. Blastoise looks bad. It has nothing that it beats, right? You set up a cell. Eye Defense Probopass is weird. If you tear a Ghost, it beats Sneasler, but it just hard loses to things. I don't really like it. And Dragon Dance Salamence, I mean, just none of these thrilled me. Well, they thrilled me. I'm happy. They don't thrill me as options for my opponent. I feel like I have counterplay to all of them, which is good. So I'm not going to over-prepare for these. I'll just build a solid team, and then maybe I'll double-check that I can handle each of these guys, but as long as I don't do something crazy, I'll be fine, I think. Onto my team, and look at Sneasler. Look how much nicer that is than anything my opponent has. There's all these reds and yellows on my opponent's board. Sneasler, with the Swords Dance and the speed boost from Unburden, just beats everything. I mean, Salamence and Mesprit and Gholdengo are rolls to kill. So I say it's 95 because that's the minimum for Salamence, but it's a fact of roll, and I think it's even a roll in Sneasler's favor slightly. The only problem is Muck. If I can kill the Muck and find a free turn to set up, I'm sitting pretty. Like, it looks insane. I expected Gholdengo to be able to stop it, but no, +2 Throat Chop, just 96% of Gholdengo's health. Maybe they go really bulky. Like, I don't think I was calculating Gholdengo with maximum bulk investment, but if they go that bulky, I'm still two-shotting, and I don't think they're killing me in return anymore. I don't know, Sneasler looks crazy good. Carmine's Luna looks a lot less good. It's taking a lot of damage from all these faster things. It's not really beating anything. It's okay. It's as good as my opponent's Sweepers. Joke's on them. But it's no Sneasler. Swords Dance. Ogerpon looks pretty good. The problem is going to be that Greninja outspeeds it. So I click Swords Dance, they switch in Greninja, and hit me with a Sludge Wave, doing 85% of my health. So I can't take any chip, or Greninja just revenge kills me, and then it will do something scary of its own. So, and Ogerpon can Scarf and outspeed me, and I'm in trouble. Not as good as Sneasler, but it's worth considering. Carmine Hattering just looks pretty bad. I mean, it beats all my opponent's bad Pokemon, right? Like, wow, it beats Tinglu and Blastoise, the Pokemon that I don't expect them to use anyway. Carmine Comfey, it looks okay for a moment until you read the numbers. It can beat Gholdengo and Probopass and Tinglu without taking any damage if they're on 12% health, 19% health, or 16% health, which means they're basically dead. So, okay, sure. A Pokemon with strong priority can beat the opponent's team if they're all almost dead. That's true, but the hard part is getting to a point where I've weakened the entire team so that Comfey can just click like Draining Kiss and win. It's not as good as the colors may suggest. And then Go-Go's a meme. It's a terrible meme. It's bad. I think it's just bad. Is that cats? So this guy is not allowed outside, which means I can't really leave because whenever I go to the door, he tries to go to the door. Here are my predictions, my final predictions for which Pokemon my opponent will bring. So, Probopass, I give them a 10% chance of bringing it. Red means I'm saying they're not going to bring it. Blastoise 5%, it's just bad, and it overlaps with Greninja and it doesn't help, and I'm grassy terrain team. Dashbun, 15%. I think it has some utility, but I don't think it's very likely. And then Tinglu, 25%. Better than the others, because it's a decent Pokemon, but it looks so bad into my team. So basically I'm saying these 4 that I ranked the lowest. So the left-hand side is my old rankings from part 2, and then this is me seeing how they've gone up and down. No change, really. Probopass and Blastoise swapped, but Salamence, I think there's a 90% chance of them bringing it. Since I've given these for such low percentages. And in order to make the 600% needed for a team, everyone here is going to get pretty high numbers. So here's Mesprit with a 90. Here's Muck with an 80. And then here's these three with 95. I expect my opponent's team to be this: Gholdengo, Greninja, Infernape, Mesprit, Salamence, Muck. I think Muck's the most likely drop. I don't think it's the worst. I think it's actually probably better than Salamence, but it's the most likely drop because it's a Muck and it doesn't look very scary compared to the rest of them. But it's really good against my team. And if they don't bring Muck, Sneasler just goes wild. So I think they have to bring it. And with that, we come to the end of the opponent team analysis. Join me in just a moment as we assess the teams that I brought to the battle. See you soon. Here is the roster as of last week. I used those 6 Pokemon at the top, and I didn't bring the bottom 4: Comfey, Lantern, Volbeat, Rillaboom. The question for today is, will I bring the same 6, or am I going to switch some people out? Comfey and Lantern and Rillaboom haven't been brought yet, and they're good. Volbeat's not getting brought at all. But Comfey and Lantern and Rillaboom, they want off the bench, right? They're saying, "Coach, put me in. Put me in, Coach. I can do it." And I'm saying, "I don't know. I like the cut of Ursaluna's jib. What are you going to do, Lantern?" And Lantern says, "Well, I've got Terrestrialized Steel in my pocket." Okay. Keep talking. Anyway, the first thing to do is to look at Volbeat. Is Volbeat coming to the battle? No, of course not. Volbeat is staying on the bench. How about my Terra Captains? So this won't come as much of a surprise. I only want to bring one, and I've been singing Lantern's praises all video. That special defense, the no special weaknesses, it does a lot. I'm bringing Lantern for sure. Which means Go-Goat's staying home. Sorry, Go-Goat, you and Lantern can tag out. I imagine they have a kind of budding romance growing, and they're happy to see each other succeed. Okay, Ogerpon is the thing that outspeeds and one-shots Gholdengo, so naturally, I want it. It's on the team. Sneasler. Sneasler is by far my best setup Pokemon. It cleans up the team, and Gholdengo is not nearly as much of a problem as I expected. It turns out old money kind of washed. Sneasler's on the team. Next up, Rillaboom. Well, if I'm bringing Sneasler, I kind of have to bring Rillaboom, right? I want the setup set. I could run an unburdened set with a different consumable item, but the Grassy Seed set is so reliable, and the Grassy Terrain is so good for my team. So Rillaboom is off the bench and on the team. Only a few Pokemon left. Well, I want a Fairy, because Salamence is a problem. And I think if there's ever a time that Comfey is going to be good, it's here, because they're weak to Priority Draining Kiss. I really like it into Greninja. It seems nice. Hatterene's good too, but the thing is, their hazard setters are Infernape, who I think is going to be going offensive, and Tinglu, who I don't even think they're going to bring, because it's so bad. So I'm not so worried about the hazard control. And I like what Comfey does, and I want to kind of try it out. So even though the grid made it look not that great, I'm willing to give it a shot. Welcome to the team, Comfey. Hatterene, you sit this week out, but I do appreciate you. And it was at this point that I realized, what do? I want both of these guys. Mandibuzz is my way to beat Infernape, right? If I don't bring Mandibuzz, what the heck am I doing to Infernape? I can still kill it with Sneasler, but I don't have a defensive switch. I'm just going to lose a Pokemon every time it comes in. Thing is, though, with Ursaluna on my team, they don't have a defensive switch. Every time Ursaluna comes in, they lose a Pokemon. Ursaluna was so good last week. But Mandibuzz just, the whole time I was prepping, I was like, Mandibuzz is like definitely on the team. I can't leave Mandibuzz behind. Its defensive use is so good. It beats Gholdengo really well. And I need something to beat Gholdengo. And if I invested in physical bulk, it can take an Infernape hit. Obvious choice, right? Except I'm not as scared of Gholdengo as I was. I'm really not. I think I was just overvaluing it. And to put Ursaluna on the bench seems insane. So I make the decision to put Mandibuzz on the bench. And I'm like, do I need Comfey? Really? I'm taking Comfey over Mandibuzz? But I need a Fairy type, right? Like, if I drop Comfey, I think I have to take Hatterene. I need Lantern. Sneasler needs Rillaboom. I need Ogerpon. So this is kind of forced. I feel like this is forced. Felt strange. But I had to put someone on the bench, and it was Mandibuz's time. I made the decision, and you will see very shortly what the consequences were. So, here is my final team. These 6 funny fellows. What I'll do here is go over the sets I chose, why I chose them, and then we'll get into the battle. So, starting with Sneasler. Sneasler is a mustelid, which means it's a blight on my country. So I live in New Zealand, there's a massive ferret and stoat problem, they eat all our bird eggs, and so I should hate Sneasler. Moreover, as a Pokemon design, it's horrific. It's ugly, it's gross, I don't want to be in a room with it. But look at that funny little ferrety fellow behind him in the background. Ferrets are just so cute. They're like vicious and we have to kill them on sight. But I mean, look at that face. Anyway, what does Sneasler do against their team? Well, we've kind of covered it already. I won't do the whole song and dance. It's okay. We can take Dark type coverage, take Gholdengo. There's nothing we can do to hit and muck, but who cares? We'll deal with that with a different Pokemon. So, what's my final set? Well, for Stab, I took Close Combat and Diaclaw. Very obvious. Most Sneasler sets are running these moves. Diaclaw's great, Close Combat's great. They both thud into Gholdengo and they both thud into Muck, but that's what coverage is for. Throat Chop was my chosen coverage, so I don't have Acrobatics, I can't hit Infernape, but I want to try Infernape with Close Combat anyway, so I don't need it. And then Swords Dance. I'm doing for the sweeping set. Grassy Seed Unburden as my item and ability, and pretty straightforward EVs. I put 92 EVs into HP because I need to outspeed a bunch of things, but the fastest thing they can bring to bear, really, is +1 Greninja with Battle Bond. So I'm EV'd to outspeed that, and then the rest into bulk. So what's Sneasler going to do? Well, Close Combat is good against Infernape and Tinglu, struggles with Muck and Gholdengo, but we've got this sweeping option. Ogerpon is an ogre. It's an Oni, featured in Shinsekai Yori. Its offensive moves are good. Hitting the water types is nice. Hitting Gholdengo is really nice. Salamence is a major problem, but we know that. What did I bring? Well, stab moves. I brought Woodhammer this time. I was playing a dangerous game last week, dropping Woodhammer. I didn't bring any coverage moves. I was considering Play Rough to hit Salamence, because Salamence likes switching in, and if I can hit with Play Rough, that's good. But I wanted Spikes and I wanted Encore. I almost dropped Spikes, and I was going to do either Swords Dance Encore or Play Rough Swords Dance. But I decided that Encore is so nice against their Mesprit in particular, but also Iron Defense Probopass. No choice with item or ability with this Pokemon. Stats, heavily into attack and speed. The speed is to outspeed neutral Gholdengo. It won't outspeed Choice Scarf Gholdengo, but it'll outspeed a Timid Max normal Gholdengo, with the rest put into bulk. What does it do? It hits Ogerpon, it hits Gholdengo with Ivy Cudgel, and it encores a bunch of junk. What's the problem? Well, Salamence switches in and gives it -1 with Intimidate, and then it quadruple resists Ivy Cudgel, so I kind of just give Salamence free switches. If it tries to get cheeky, maybe there's something I can do with Encore, because I might be slower than it, so it might Dragon Dance and then I can Encore. But I think in most worlds, I'm just switching out into Lantern. And yeah, I put the spikes down and they really hurt the little shoes of my enemies. They puncture the feet and they stab into the bone, and my enemies have foot pain for the rest of their lives. Ursaluna. Infamous neutral coverage, hitting 4 things super effectively, including Gholdengo, and the rest neutrally, with Blood Moon. Both of their Blood Moon resistances are weak to Earth Power. Hooray! As usual, Ursaluna's coverage looks nice. So what did I bring? Well, Blood Moon and Earth Power, of course. And no coverage move, didn't think I needed it. Was considering Vacuum Wave, but with Rillaboom and Comfey, I didn't think I needed a third priority move to hit Greninja. I thought 2 was enough. So, Calm Mind and Healing. I don't know if Calm Mind was that good, like looking at the sweeping setup didn't seem that good. But I liked the longevity, I liked having an option to boost up if they gave me free turns. It just seemed like something I might get some use out of that I couldn't quite foresee. So, leftovers, and everything into Special Defense. Special Defense is Ursaluna's weakness, its defense stat is naturally really high. I want to be able to survive a Greninja. I don't think I survive Choice Specs Greninja Hydro Pump, but I'll survive a Life Orb Greninja Surf, I think. And particularly, I want to be able to survive Make It Rain and KO with Earth Power in return. So, what do? I click a strong move that they don't have a switch into, and they explode into a lovely set of fireworks. What's the problem? Well, they've got these fast Pokemon that outspeed me and do a bajillion damage. Infernape just close combats me and toast. So my sweeping potential is not great, but look at this matchup thing. I have 6 Pokemon that I have tempo against, and 4 that I don't have tempo against, but that can't switch in. So it looks real bad, right? My opponent has to sack something when Ursaluna comes in, or make a read. And if I can just put my opponent in that position over and over again, eventually they'll get one wrong, they'll have to sack something, and then their team will fall apart. Comfey is next, and wow, that's pathetic coverage, Comfey. That's pitiful. You can't hit steel types with any of your moves. Fairy doesn't hit 3 of their Pokemon. Grass doesn't help very much. But that's not what your point is. What did I do? I gave it Draining Kiss, I gave it Giga Drain, and then I gave it Utility Move. And I gave it a choice specs. I thought, let me just make a Draining Kiss that one-shots Greninja. That was kind of my goal. And yeah, it's 100% chance to kill Greninja, unless I invest in Bolt. Terrible against Gholdengo, but I've got knockoff and I can pivot. It just seems funny. And I like that. So special attack and HP, no point in speed. If I want to outspeed, I will. I put 8 speed there just because of the speed tie with Salamence, where if they decided not to put any points in speed on this element, or speed creep me by 4, I would creep them by 8 and outspeed. Does that matter? No, I mean, it only matters for like U-turning before it hits me, or knocking off. Very niche, but it's 80 these, and I figured maybe there's a world. What does it do? It presses fast forward on its healing moves and hits the starter Pokemon. It's the starter killer. Problems, Muck and Gholdengo. But here's the thing. Here's the Comfey redemption. Look at all these sweepers, scary sweepers my opponent has, that cannot function when Comfey is around. Salamence just loses. Even if it Dragon Dances, it just loses to Comfey. Greninja, with a Battle Bond boost, just gets one shot by Draining Kiss. Wow, good job, Greninja, nice boost. Infernape doesn't die, but it takes 2/3 of its health. I like it. Comfey is just my, oh, you're trying to do something funny? Nope, you're dead. Lantern. I love Lantern. Lantern is one of my personal favorite Pokemon. Anglerfish are weird. They're really weird. Lantern is like the Disneyfied version of an Anglerfish. It's all happy and go lucky, and then you look at that one on the background with those horrible teeth, and you're like, oh my god, that thing doesn't eat my face. Now, in terms of my Lantern, I've got Terra options, so I'm going to Terra. I can go Steel or Flying or Water, but spoiler, I won't be going Water. And the coverage is pretty good. They don't have anything that resists both Water and Electric, and I can hit Salamence with Ice Beam. So I chose Terra Steel. So I chose Terra Steel for the property of not being able to be poisoned by Muck, because I don't like the idea of just Poison Touch poisoning my whole team, so I wanted kind of a Muck switch in, and a switch into Greninja Sludge Wave. It does open me up, so it makes me really weak to Infernape, but with a Terra Poison Mispirit, a Protean Poison Greninja, and a Poison Muck, Terra Steel seemed like the way to go. Scald and Discharge. Discharge over Thunderbolt, because I like the 30% paralysis rate. I still get the kills I need. I still kill Blastoise and Greninja. And for the other Pokemon, I think that 20% chance more to paralyze is better than a 10% increase in damage output. Ice Beam for one-shotting Salamence, very good. And then Volt Switch. I was tossing up between Volt Switch and Flip Turn because they have a Tinglu that gives them Volt Switch immunity but not Flip Turn immunity. But Volt Switch does way more damage because it's special, and I figured that that was worth it because I don't think Tinglu is a problem. I just am not worried about Tinglu. So, Water Absorb to take some surfs from Blastoise and Greninja, and Assault Vest. And I'm going all in on Spadef. I don't care about defense. My defense is pitiful. Infernape destroys me. I just want that maximized special defense. And my base HP is already good. So what do we do? Assault Vest and Ice Beam. What do we lose to? Muck Poison, unless we Terrestrialize. Rillaboom, the keystone of my entire team ecosystem. What does he do offensively? Well, pretty badly. We've got the water types that it kills with Grassy Glide, but there's 4 things. It resists grass, Salamence double resists grass. Not great, but that's not why he's here. He's here to, sure, click some big grass moves, knock off my opponent, hits Gholdengo super effectively, and pivot out with the Choice Band. But he's mainly here for Grassy Surge. I've gone Jolly Plus so that I outspeed timid Gholdengo. So I'm 1 speed faster than timid Gholdengo, and I will kill it with knockoff, unless it's really defense invested. Now Rillaboom, his job is to make a lot of friends, and he's got a lot of friends. In fact, he's got 5 friends on my team. For Lantern, he negates Lantern's weakness to Earthquake from Tinglu. For Comfey and Ogerpon, he boosts their Grass-type move damage. And for Ursaluna, he gives it passive healing, which is really nice on a bulky, slow Pokemon like Ursaluna. And of course, for Sneasler, procs the Grassy Seed and sets Sneasler up for a life of victory. That's it. This is the team I went with. I locked this in the night before the battle, and in the morning I had a look at it, and I thought, I don't know what I can do better, so I guess this is what we're going with. I'm pleased with it. I think there's maybe a few things I would change, and dropping Mandibus felt scary. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know who to keep. If you have any idea, like if anyone is watching this, say there's been a nuclear apocalypse, and my log on YouTube's files happen to survive through some freak electrical failure, and then 20,000 years pass, the surviving humans have kind of started to rebuild, and they dig up this old, withered Google server tank, and they find a hard drive, and all it has is my videos. And on the videos, they're like, what are these strange creatures? They're called a Sneasler and such. In that scenario, if you were there, if you're a kind of post-apocalyptic scavenger, what would you have done here? Because I feel like there's something I missed or something I could have done better. I'm happy, but I'm left with this nagging feeling that there's something not quite right or something else I could have done. I don't know. Maybe that's just me hallucinating, but I'd be very interested if anyone has any kind of improvements or alternative suggestions. Anyway, that's it for us. All that's left is the battle. So I will join you for the final moment. I've turned the light out for the cat because he's very high and he's very tired. So forgive the darkness. It is the middle of the night. Well, it's 10 o'clock at night. It's not that late. But it's Halloween at the moment. Yes, I know it's been almost a week since I did the battle, but time has a way of getting away from you. But it's Halloween. It's spooky. I'm feeling a bit haunted. I think maybe there might be a gremlin somewhere. If you've seen the gremlin, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It'll get better, is all I can say. It'll get better. But you have my heartfelt sympathies. I'll try to soothe you and help you through this by having a look at whether I got my predictions right. In just a moment, I will show you the sight I saw when I loaded into the battle. There it is. Salamence, Muck, Tinglu, Dashbun, Mesprit, Infernape. There they are, on the right. And I look at this and I'm shocked. I'm like, where in the world is Gholdengo? I spent this whole time like, Gholdengo is going to eat me alive. Gholdengo is going to skin me and make a flesh suit from my innards, right? Like, Gholdengo has been haunting my dreams, and it's nowhere to be seen. Greninja's not even here. So I look at this and I'm like, my first thought is, oh my god, all my prep was crazy because they brought Tinglu and Dashbun. I thought they weren't going to come. My second thought is, they brought Tinglu and Dashbun. I'm going to win. Like, where's Greninja? So I have a roller coaster. I'm like, oh my god, everything's going wrong, to, wait, no. Am I not just really favored? Okay, we can lament my accuracy. 50-50, not great, but how was I to know that they would leave behind Gholdengo and Greninja? How was I to know? Well, let's see how the battle actually looks. So Ursaluna looks really good, it beats everything except Infernape, but Infernape looks really good, it beats everything except Sneasler. Lantern looks really good. With Terra, it beats everything dubious on Tinglu, except Infernape. Tinglu and Dashbun look really bad. I don't think either of them do anything. In theory, we'll see what happens in the battle itself. And then Rillaboom and Ogerpon have identical matchup spreads against this team. They're overlapping in grass type, but Ogerpon's job was to kill Gholdengo, and I don't see a Gholdengo. Rillaboom's job is to set grassy terrain. The other two, yeah, they're okay. So, yeah, I mean, looking at this, it's not so bad. I think Tinglu and Dashbun just look so terrible against me. which is good for me. I like that. But I am a bit scared because I'm like, has my opponent seen something that I haven't seen? Like maybe, like there could be any number of shenanigans that are about to become afoot. And with that, you've seen everything that I have seen until the battle started. So we will cut now to Studio Henry, who will guide you through the battle itself. I will see you. Me. Where do I live? What's the opposite of the studio? If that Henry's in the studio, where am I? I'm in the field? I'm in the field. This has been Field Henry. We're going to cut back to the studio for the battle, and then you'll come back to the field for me at the end. Okay, see you in just a moment. Good morning, everybody. I'm here in the studio, broadcasting live from my room, which is very exciting for me because I've always wanted to go to my room. It's been top of the list of my tourist destinations, and I finally had the chance to visit on account of living here. So yeah, it's daytime outside. The cat's okay. The cat survived the night. He's now allowed to go and frolic in the fields and hopefully not get into too many fights. But we'll see. We'll see. But I digress. The show must go on, and we have a battle to look at. So I forgot what I said in the rest of my recording, but I'm sure it was very wise and insightful. For now, let's get into it, shall we? So, as I said when I was back in the field, I was quite happy when I saw the team I would be up against because there was no Greninja and there was no Gholdengo. I was like, okay, cool. The question became, what's my lead, right? Because I had been thinking I'll lead Rillaboom, and that way, sure, it's bad into Infernape, but it deals with Greninja and it deals with Gholdengo. But now they don't have Rillaboom. I really think that they're only two, well, they can lead Tinglu, but Tinglu kind of is bad into everything, so it doesn't matter too much. The other two leads that I think could be really good are Mesprit, if it's doing a kind of utility lead set, and Infernape with a choice item or Stealth Rocks and a Focus Sash. I don't want to go for things that are weak to poison or weak to fire, so I've ruled out Rillaboom, Comfey, and Ogerpon. Ursaluna I don't think does well in those two matchups. I'd rather save it so I can hit his slower Pokemon and one-shot them. So then I'm thinking Sneasler or Lantern are my choices. And I quite like Lantern here. If he leads Mesprit, I'm Assault Vest Lantern, so I should be fine. If he leads Infernape, I think I live a close combat, and I kill with Scald. And even if I don't live a close combat, he doesn't know that I'm not physically invested, and he might think I live a close combat and kill with Scald, so he'll switch. So my prediction going into the first turn is they're going to lead Infernape, and either click Rocks if they're a lead set, or click U-turn if they're not. And I'm going to lead Lantern. So, let's see how it played out. So they do lead Infernape. Happy to see it. I lead Lantern. So for turn 1, they've led Annihilate. I'm thinking either it's a Choice Band Annihilate or Choice Scarf Annihilate and it's going to click U-turn on me, or it's going to be a lead Infernape and then either it clicks Stealth Rock with a Focus Sash or it just switches, hard switches. So I'm not too worried. I think they're going to pivot or click Stealth Rock. I can't stop the Stealth Rock, so what can I do? I just have to play around it. Now Scald looks really good from me. They've got 5 physical attackers, maybe 4 if Infernape special, but probably 5. And everything hates being burned. Salamence, the only water resist, hates being burned. Muck hates being burned, Tinglu hates being burned. Dashbun might not mind if it's a supportive set, but Scald just feels really good to me. So I click it. I mean, it feels like the straightforward move. Let us see what happens. So they do click U-turn. I take 20%. Muck comes in. And I get the burn. Amazing. Wonderful, right? I've done it. I've won the RNG game. The Scald burn is, maybe it's a bit cheese, but I'm not going to complain about it. Now, turn 2 is interesting. I don't do much damage. I mean, you've seen how much damage I did on that last turn. I did 16% of max health with Scald. Lantern's not breaking through, so I have to switch. What do I switch to? Well, not my Grass or Fairy types. So it's either Sneasler or Ursaluna. But Sneasler can't really hurt Muck. So I'm basically forced into Ursaluna. I think, well, I may as well Volt Switch and get the chip. If they go to Ting-Lu, I can just switch next turn and be favored anyway. So Volt Switch it is. Again, pretty straightforward move. They have a lot of things they can click. Knockoff is pretty good. Poison moves are pretty good. Curse, if they want to try doing a setup thing, could be usable. I'm expecting my Ursaluna to either get knocked off or poisoned. Preferably poisoned. What happens? Well, here's Ursaluna. Hits by a poison move. Okay, resisted 5%. They get the poison. It's only fair, considering I got the Scald Burn. It's annoying. It's really annoying. But it's only fair. For turn 3... So, they get the poison. But it's only fair. I got the Scald Burn. An eye for an eye. Now, they can't stay in because I outspeed. Well, they can't stay in because I have higher base speed. I might not outspeed if they're speed invested, but I don't think they will be. So they will probably switch. Now they've got 2 levitators, which will take an earth power. So Blood Moon looks good. The thing about Blood Moon though, is if I click it, I can't click it again, right? So I'm thinking, do I want to click it this turn or next turn? I'm pretty sure they're going to switch, but I'm not certain. Both Earth Power and Blood Moon will kill Muck if it decides to stay in. Let's see what happens. They go to Ting-Lu. I click my Blood Moon, so I think I just want the upfront damage. And Ting-Lu loses only 29% of its health, right? Ting-Lu is incredibly bulky. But we knew that, right? That was its one strength, is that it could take Ursaluna's hits. What it can't do is take the hits of any of my other Pokemon. Well, it can take Lantern too, but... Okay, so turn 4 is interesting, because I can't Blood Moon again. I have Earth Power, but it's going to do pitiful damage. I can click Calm Mind if I want. But if I Calm Mind, they can Whirlwind me out. Or they can do damage to me. It feels too slow. I'm on a timer already with the poison. It feels too slow, so I want to switch. My options for switching into Ting-Lu are Comfey, Rillaboom, or Ogerpon. Rillaboom's pretty good. The problem is I don't really want to give the Ting-Lu healing with Grassy Terrain. I like the chip sticking on Ting-Lu. Comfey's kind of a late game guy who'll clean up with priority. At this point, I want Ogerpon in, especially because I can Encore it into a hazard move and then get a free turn and get my own hazards up. So I got Ogerpon. What do? They Ruination me, which is not what I was expecting. I was expecting Stealth Rock. I thought they want to just get hazards up against my team. They can see I don't have a Defogger or a Rapid Spinner, so if they get it up, it'll stay. Surely they want to get them up. But they go for the Ruination, and it's a bit annoying because I actually liked Ogerpon here, but it's not so bad. I don't need Ogerpon nearly as much as I thought I would because they don't have Gholdengo. So I'm quite happy to kind of let them hurt it instead of getting hazards up, which will help my whole team. So turn 5 is complex. I have a lot of choices. I don't have U-turn on Ogerpon, but I can hard switch if I think they're going to switch out from me. But I don't know if they're going to switch out from me because I don't think I kill in one hit, and maybe they just want to get up hazards. So the question is, do I need to deal damage to Ting-Lu, or do I need my own hazards? And I kind of think I need my own hazard. Their Infernape looks really annoying, but if I can chip it into range of my priority moves, I've dealt with it. So putting it on a spikes timer is really nice. So I'm not sure what they'll do. I think they're either going to go for hazards again, or switch, probably, into Salamence, because Salamence is really good into Ogerpon. They don't switch. I get my spikes up. They just Earthquake. Now I'm on 6% health. It's turn 6, and we're kind of back in the same spot, but I've got a spike up, my Ogerpon's taken damage. Now my hero BKC would be so disappointed in me if I went for the second layer of spikes, knowing I'd never get a third. So I think, no, BKC, he's telling me the truth. We just hit. We hit now, we kill Ting-Lu. I die too, because of recoil, but that seemed worth it. They can still switch to Salamence, and then I just kind of die for no reason. But I want to sacrifice Ogerpon. It doesn't do that much into their team, aside from get spikes up and beat Ting-Lu. So, Warhammer comes out, and Ting-Lu goes down. Hooray. It's 5-5, but I've got a spike up, and I'm feeling pretty good. Turn 7 is a kind of deja vu moment. We're back in the Infernape Lantern matchup from the start of the game. The same rules basically apply. Scold still looks really good for me. U-turn is probably still their best move. I don't know what other moves they have. This time, because their muck is already burned, I can't get another burn on it. So there is something to be said for just Volt Switching, but I want to make sure that I kill this thing if it does decide to stay in. So they U-turn, I hit muck with another Scold. Turn 8, again, is a deja vu situation. Hang on, wasn't this also turn 2? Don't I remember this? Well, what did I do on turn 2? I switched to Ursaluna, and they clicked a poison move. What am I going to do on turn 8? I'm going to Volt Switch to Ursaluna again, expecting again to get poison jabbed. So I Volt Switch, muck's almost dead. Here comes Ursaluna. This time they Drain Punch. Good move on their behalf. It healed them up, so the burn isn't going to kill them. Super effective. They kind of read that what we were doing was repeating history. And now, much like the third turn, I have Ursaluna in against Muck, and I can get a Blood Moon off. This time, though, they don't have Tinglu as a switch, and they probably just want to sacrifice Muck. So I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, well, maybe they just want to sack Muck to Blood Moon. I'll just click Moonlight. I'll just heal up. If they switch into something, if they switch into Infernape, okay, I have to switch into something and do the whole loop again, but my Ursaluna's back to full health. It seems good. So I'm going to click Moonlight. I'm kind of expecting them to just sack Muck, click Drain Punch again, click Knock Off, and let Muck go down. So I click Moonlight, and they click Drain Punch. Pretty much exactly as expected. Now this is where the burn becomes incredibly meaningful. If the Muck wasn't burned, that did 30% of my health and healed them for twice as much. 30% and 15% are very, very different. With burn only doing 15, I can just take Drain Punches. Drain Punches are not scary. I can Moonlight faster than the Drain Punches can stack. And because I'm not toxic poisoned, I'm just normal poisoned, I can out-heal the damage forever if I want to. So the next few turns, I Moonlight and they Drain Punch again and again, until we get to turn 12. So I have two options, click Earth Power or click Blood Moon. Now at first, I was thinking I'm going to click Blood Moon, because they have 2 Earth Power immunities, so Blood Moon is just a safer play. The problem with clicking Blood Moon is that if they stay in and let Muck die, sack Muck, then they can bring in one of their flying Pokemon, Salamence or Mesprit, with immunity to Earth Power, and I can't click Blood Moon again because of the restriction. And then Salamence and Mesprit would get a free setup turn on me, and that scared me. So I thought, no, we'll click Earth Power. If my opponent hard switches to Salamence and Mesprit, I'm in the same position as if I'd killed Muck and they'd switched in, except Muck's still alive in the back, but I can Earth Power. And that seemed favorable to me. So I thought, okay, we're going to click Earth Power and just take the L if they switch to a Levitator. What did they do? Well, they switched into Dash Bun. I don't know if this was a good or bad move, because I don't know their set. I think that there is a world in which I clicked Calm Mind there, and then they'd have a Dash Bun that outspeeds and can do something. I don't even really know what Dash Bun does. But maybe, they're kind of behind, they have to make a hard read, they think he's going to Calm Mind again and then I can do something. But I clicked Earth Power, so their Dash Bun just exploded. I'm like, okay, I wasn't that worried about Dash Bun, but I am glad it's gone. And then they send in Salamence, and we come to turn 13. So I can click Blood Moon on their Salamence. They can Dragon Dance or they can hit me with something strong, but they don't kill with anything. And if they DD, I want to get them in range of Comfey for sure. So I'm just going to Blood Moon them again. They do Dragon Dance. I do Blood Moon. I get the crit, but it did not matter. That Salamence was like 130% killed without the crit. With the crit, all that will be left of that dragon is a kind of explosion crater and a little pile of dragon dust. Good job, Ursaluna. It's looking really good for me. I'm up 5-3, and I just feel very strong. So turn 14, Infernapes come in, and it's scary, right? It will one-shot Ursaluna with close combat. I want to preserve Ursaluna. I kind of like its earth power into Muck. Blood Moon's just so strong. Even if I get it into Mesprit, I can click Blood Moon. I want to switch out. I don't want to switch into Rillaboom because it will die. I don't want to switch into Lantern because it can't take 2 hits. And I want Sneasler as my insurance policy to come in after one of my Pokemon dies. So it seems to be Comfey is the obvious choice. I'm aware that maybe I'm sacking Comfey. Like, I'm not certain Comfey can take the hit, depending on what they click. But I don't mind sacking Comfey. It doesn't look that good against their team anymore, with Salamence and Tinglu dead. So I go Comfey, and they click Aura Sphere, and I'm like, whoa. What? It's a special Infernape. I thought this was physical. It's a special Infernape. And that's amazing, because Lantern can take special Infernape hits forever. U-turn is probably Infernape's strongest move against my Lantern, because it's so specially defensive with an Assault Vest. So I can see why my opponent was just clicking U-turn. They don't have close combat. They've got Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere is not strong enough to get through Lantern. And at this point, I breathe a sigh, and I'm like, I think I'm winning this game. So turn 15, I am threatening the Draining Kiss, but this is an Aura Sphere Infernape. It can't really do much to me, so I think they have to switch. And I'm thinking, I want to keep tempo up. It's faster than me. I can let it hit Comfey with something, and then I can U-turn and get Rillaboom in, get Lantern in, get Sneasler in, and deal with the Infernape, no problem. So I click U-turn. They sack their Muck, which means I don't get the switch. That was smart of them. They get Mesprit in for free against my Comfey. My Comfey wanted to leave, but it was forbidden from leaving. Very good move. Very nice use of resources to get their Mesprit in, give them that last minute chance of a reverse sweep. I'm like, okay, Comfey cannot do anything to Mesprit. It's going to Terra Poison. How do I beat this, right? I don't have my Encore Ogerpon. If I did, I could just switch to it in Encore. I don't have Mandibuzz, so they can click Mystical Power and boost that way. So what do? I still want to switch out of Comfey. So I click U-turn again, and I'll just see what they do, and then go from there. So I click U-turn, get a little bit of chip. I decide to go into Rillaboom, because it's going to do big upfront damage. Before they boost up with Ice Beam, before they boost up with Nasty Plot, I can tank an Ice Beam, and hit it with a big Wood Hammer. Or I can knock its item off, and that's quite important, because if it tries to do a Calm Mind Sword Power thing, I need to be able to wear it down with my team. So Rillaboom comes in, and it's Mystical Power, and that's very interesting. They get the special attack boost, of course. Turn 17, I can either go for Wood Hammer, which will kill, or knock off. Wood Hammer is stronger, but I'm pretty sure they're going to Terra. So I want to knock off. I want to get rid of their leftovers. I want to stop them being able to heal forever. And knock off still does big damage. And if they don't Terra, knock off is super effective. Yay. So they do Terra. I click knock off. And they click Mystical Power again. I'm just going to have to wear it down and beat it by whatever means I can. So on turn 18, I click knock off again, just getting the chip in. And they Mystical Power again. Okay, goodbye Rillaboom. Lantern comes in, and I'm thinking, okay, you're 2.5 times special attack, but I'm Assault Vest Lantern with approximately 700 Vigintillion special defense. So I think I can take a hit or two, especially with the grassy terrain. So I'm just going to try it. I'm going to get the chip, and then either I kill it with Lantern, or Lantern dies, and then I can finish it with Sneasler once it's low enough. So Mystical Power, 29%, they get the boost. Discharge, do I get a para? No. We'll do it again. They Mystical Power. I survive it on 2% and kill with Discharge. Now I'm up 4-1. This is a winning endgame. I definitely win. The only question left is, can I win 4-0 or only 3-0? Maybe there's a way to win 4-0 if I switch Sneasler in, but it's kind of scary, right? It's also the only way I lose. If I switch Sneasler in and they're running mixed Infernape with Flare Blitz and they Flare Blitz my Sneasler, Infernape suddenly 4-0s me. Not good. I sack Lantern. I say, you can kill Lantern, it's all fine. I'll bring in Sneasler and get the final close combat kill. Huzzah. 3-0 victory to me. Good job, team. So that was a fun one. I felt pretty in control the whole time. I felt like my prep was good. I did miss Mandibuzz. Comfey didn't do that much. I think Mandibuzz was better than Comfey. But how was I to know? I liked the dream of Comfey, and I thought they would bring Greninja. Anyway, it was a good battle. I'll quickly take you through how the standings changed for this week, and then return you to the field reporter, Henry Kidd, for the sign-off. It's been a long, long journey, but finally, we are here at the very end. Thank you for joining me, of course. It's been a pleasure. All we have left to do is to work through the standings and see how things have changed. So here is where we left off at the end of week 1. We were in 6th with 2 points. Let's have a look at how the week 2 battles progressed. First, the Pyros and the Yveltals faced off. Now the Pyros currently tied for first, and they win and they keep the medal. So the Pyros are the favourites going into week 3. Next, we have Roserade and Heatmore facing off. Heatmore wins in a 6-0 victory, which saves Heatmore. Heatmore's in the positive, but poor Roserade's in last place. It's a hard game for Roserade. It's been a hard 2 weeks, but there's still 6 more to go. Anything can happen. Next up, Okidogi and Bramblegast. These two are tied for 3rd currently, so this is anyone's battle. And it was very close. Bramblegast narrowly wins by a single point, but they actually both lose standing because of how close the battle was. Next, Ursaluna and Mega Scizor. Similar situation to Okidogi and Bramblegast. They're both slightly under 0, but very even. Scizor takes it 4-0. Ursaluna's having a bad day, but Scizor back in the top half, back in the competitive set. Next, Tinkaton and Grafaiai go head to head, and Grafaiai takes the lead and moves up into 3rd place. Grafaiai is looking pretty good this tournament. 2 clean wins. Tinkaton down to -3, but not the end of the world. And then it's me. Well, you've seen how the battle goes. We take victory over the Bouffalants, and we are now tied equal for 4th. So we're not winning the whole thing. We're not leading the pack, because both of our victories have been relatively narrow, but we are 2-0. And then Quaxley and Lucario face off. Lucario takes the win by 2 points, but that's enough to secure Lucario the silver. And finally, Regigigas and Bulbasaur, with Regigigas coming out ahead by 2. And then you have it. This is where we stand as of the end of week 2. There's a bit of contention for that 8th place spot, but the top 3 are looking solid. Pyro, Lucario, and Grafaiai all doing really well this tournament. So that's it for the studio part of the video. There's only a couple minutes left. I'll hand you back over to Field Henry for the sign-off. Welcome back. This is the field. Yes, you've been in the studio. Welcome back to the field. Wow, what an exciting battle. I haven't actually recorded the battle yet. I went straight to this from the previous slide, which was that grid with the tempo of the 6 and the 6. It's been moments for me, even if it's been like, I don't know, Studio Henry probably took 3 hours to record the battle, so it's probably been 3 hours since I saw you. But for me, it's been moments. Anyway, wow, what an exciting battle. Let's have a recap of who did well. These guys all did terribly. And by terribly, I mean they didn't come. They weren't invited. They're on the bench. These guys did terribly. Rillaboom in particular, no kills and a death. Pretty disappointing. Comfey didn't do anything, but at least it came. It kind of had a nice presence. Sneasler and Lantern both do well for themselves. They get a kill. And Ogerpon and Ursaluna get 2 kills each. Kudos. Good job, guys. Now, the last thing to do is have a look at the total stats for my Pokemon for the lifetime of this league. Volbeat and Comfey are at 0-0. Volbeat's never set foot on the arena, and Comfey doesn't have feet. It set flower in the arena, but then did nothing once it got there. Go-Go and Rillaboom are 0-1, disappointing showing. Lantern, Hatterene, and Mandibuzz are solid 1-1s, my sort of defensive backbone. An honest day's work from these three. Sneasler is 1-0. It gets the bronze medal. Good job, Sneasler. You got a kill and you've never died. Ogerpon's 2-1. Good job, Ogerpon. Positive KDA. And Ursaluna with another gold medal. 6-1. When we get to the medal ceremony at the end of all this, of all the 8 weeks in the playoffs, Ursaluna has 3 golds under its belt already. It's been 2 weeks. So I shudder to think at the number of accolades we will have to shower Ursaluna in. And that's it. So, yeah. Join me next week when we fight Spectria and Heatran and Urshifu, among others. This is the guy who stole my Heatran, so I have a bit of a vengeance quest, because I wanted Heatran. Imagine how good my team would be with Heatran. I really need to win. And I will pull out all the stops, which is why it's Thursday night, and I'm still recording my video for last week instead of prepping for next week's battle. But you've seen the slides. I mean, you've seen the aesthetic brilliance of what I've created here. Sure, it's taken me a week of straight work, and sure, no one will watch these videos, and sure, even if they do, they won't appreciate the subtleties of the arrangement, the orderly arrangement of 1,000 circular plus symbols on a manila beige background grid. But I appreciate those things, and since I'm the only one who will ever see this, that means I have 100% viewer satisfaction. If you want to spite me, you could watch this video and share it with your friends, but make sure that they, find your like disgruntled friends. If you've got like a mate who's a bit grumpy all the time, and like you try to show them a new thing, you're like real excited. You're like, hey, come read this book. Come read Tolstoy's War and Peace. And they're like, oh, War and Peace, like it looks really long. And you're like, yeah, it's long, but Tolstoy is like a genius, right? Like, there's a reason this is one of the classics. It might be long. At least read Anna Karenina. I mean, come on, you got to have a little literary taste. And they say, oh, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to go back to watching like highlight reels of Taskmaster on YouTube. And you're like, well, Taskmaster's great. It's just life should have Taskmaster and Anna Karenina and War and Peace. This doesn't have to be, you don't have to choose between Greg Davies and Tolstoy. You can have both. As Morrissey said, there's no need to choose. I can have both. Anyway, if you've got a friend like that who refuses Tolstoy on behalf of Greg Davies, that's his name, right? From Taskmaster? Big guy? Funny laugh? Yeah, I think that's his name, Greg Davies. If it's not, sorry about that, Greg Davies. If you've got a mate who's really into Greg Davies and hates Tolstoy, show him this video so that he'll see it and be dissatisfied. And that will mean that my satisfaction rate goes from 100%, because it's just me, to 50%, because it's me and your mate. I guess if you watch this too, then and you don't like it either, my rate will go down to 33%, which is going to break my heart. So if you want to do that, go ahead. If you want to make me happy, I guess you can send it to friends who would like it. But my approval rate's at 100, so it may be an exercise in futility on your part, but I do appreciate the effort nonetheless. Okay, that's enough rambling. Goodbye. Thank you. Good night.